This is Join Us in France, episode 166. This episode is brought to you by Patreon supporters and Addicted to France, the tour company that specializes in small group tours in France. Bonjour, I'm Annie, and on today's show, we're talking about Matt's family going off the beaten track in France. But first, let me introduce myself a little bit. My name is Annie Sargent, and Join Us in France is the only travel show, as far as I know, exclusively dedicated to helping you prepare your big trip to France. My purpose in bringing you each episode of the podcast is to have an impact on your life and how you plan your next trip to France, and also how you can make your next vacation a wonderful time. You may not hear it right away because I don't sound like your standard French person speaking English, but I'm French, and you'll hear it if you listen long enough. I was born and raised in France, and the reason why I speak English the way I do is because I lived in the US for a very long time. I think it matters because my biggest credential for putting together this show is not that I'm a travel industry professional, because I'm not, never was, but because I'm French, I'm a local. And I believe that with your help, we can all put together a great vacation to France. I'm really grateful to listeners who come on the show and share what happened on their vacation, what surprised them, what they loved, what they wouldn't do again, that sort of thing. And I think that's how you plan a great trip. Be curious and learn what other people experienced, and then come up with a plan that works for you. On today's episode, I talked to Matthew Gamache from Boston, who is one of the earliest supporters of the show. He has given back of his time and donations as well, several times. He's been on episode 128 about wine touring in Beaune, in Burgundy, on episode 82 on the Loire Valley and the Dordogne, and on episode 83 on Provence and Annecy. He loves visiting France. He's been there many times, and he's a really good vacation planner. So we have lots to learn from him. And for the first time ever, we had to record this episode twice because of user error. And by user error, I mean this user talking to you right now. So thank you so much for being patient, Matt. And thank you for sharing what you've learned about France with everybody. Stay tuned after the interview for my personal update and the French tip of the week. And now here's the interview. Hello, Matt, and welcome to Join Us in France. Or I should say welcome back to Join Us in France.
Hi, Annie. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, it's so nice to talk to you. And thank you for being so willing to share your experience in France. You make a bit of a habit of coming to France, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Tell everybody how many times you've been.
Well, to France, this trip, which we did in this past June and July 2017, would have been my fourth trip, I think. But it's the second big trip with the kids. So my name's Matt. Me, my wife, Erica, and my 11-year-old and 7-year-old daughters, Alice and Nora, took a trip in 2015 it was a long 3-week trip where we saw Provence and the Dordogne and a little bit of the Loire and the Alps. And we talked about that in episodes, I believe, 82 and 83 on your show. And so this summer, we covered some areas that we've seen before and covered some new areas. So we did another 3-week trip again in June and July that does a little bit of or I should say 2 days in the Loire, 6 days total in Brittany, a week in the Dordogne, a week on the Mediterranean in Catalonia part of France, and then 1 day passing through Paris.
So what's interesting with what you did this time, Matt, is that you went all the way across France, northwest to southwest, and not all the way down. You went across. to Catalonia. So what was that like driving this whole time?
So just like in 2015, I thought the driving was great. It was very easy and very safe and orderly and not very much traffic. For the most part, when we were driving from place to place, week to week, we took highways as much as we could. And I felt the highways were great. I mean, they're expensive, but not very much traffic. And the only really big cities that we went through were Nantes, Bordeaux. And then at the end, the only time we really hit any big traffic was between Narbonne and Perpignan. That was a little stressful, but the rest of it was super easy.
That's cool. Yeah. And, I did an episode a long time ago. It was episode 16 that kind of talks about that. And it's important to get prepared a little bit so that you can have a relaxed time when you're driving in France. It's really not that difficult, honestly. But
it isn't. I think the number one thing to be mindful of is your speed, because it's easy to go over the speed limit, especially when you're in these D roads. So you just have to be mindful of how fast you're going, and as long as you do that, you should be fine.
Yep. And you know what? This last time when I was driving to go on vacation in the US, I got myself a little speeding ticket. I wasn't going very high over the speed limit, but there was a police officer hiding somewhere. I didn't even see anything happen. So when I got back from vacation, I had my surprise, hey, you lost a point and you owe us 45 euros. There you go.
Yeah.
I wasn't going very fast, though. It was a 90 kilometers per hour, and I was going 97. So, I usually don't even speed at all. It's just that I must have not been paying attention. I was, it was 5 a.m. Come on.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. So, they do hand out tickets.
Yeah. If I could speak a little bit about why we chose this route. So in big picture, why we like going to France, especially with the kids, are for a couple of reasons. Number one, while my French is not good, and you'll hear my pronunciations are awful, I can get by with my high school American high school French, and that makes a big difference when you're traveling with kids and you want to make sure you get things right. Yeah. Secondly, I love the span of history in France, and I love the specific regions. So I feel like every region of France you go to kind of feels like its own country. And the history that you can get by traveling through France, you can go as far back as 20,000 years to see cave art paintings, as we've done. In Brittany, we saw Karnak stones and things like that are from 10,000 BC. And then, of course, you've got the Romans, the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, World War I, World War II. Pretty much anything you want to see history-wise is here in France.
Yep.
So it's plus all the art and everything. So it's just a super place to be. And the other thing is that my 7-year-old daughter, Nora, is severely allergic to eggs. And we really wanted to be in a place where we felt like we could handle that without taking on too much risk. And I feel like because I could speak French okay, and because it worked the first time, we figured that we wanted to go back.
That's a very good point, that in France, you can deal with severe allergies, but you do have to make yourself clear to the restaurants.
That's right. And what we did in that regard, first of all, we didn't go out to eat very often, but we went out more this time than we did in 2015. But we printed out a card that says exactly what we want to say. She's allergic to these things. Please let us know. And everyone was just super accommodating, way awesome about everything.
Oh, that's great. That's
no
great.
Issues.
Yeah,
yep.
That's one of the extras that I send out to email subscribers is the allergy card. I don't remember when's the last time I sent it out. I need to do that again. Maybe I'll do it with this episode. That'd be good. Oh.
Yeah. Okay, so for this trip, we wanted to retain some of the things that were really successful in the last trip, and then build off it. So we like staying for a longer stretches if we can in one place. We like to rent a house so we can do our own cooking. And we like to have kind of a swimming option or some sort of fun option that the kids would be engaged with at each place. And so when I went back to the kids and said, well, you've been here, so what do you think you want to do this time? What did you like? What did you not like? Their main feedback was we had spent one day on the Mediterranean last time, and they said, well, if we're going to do a week, if you're talking about weeks, we want to spend a week on the Mediterranean. So So I said, okay, well, that's a good idea. We'll do that. So I started looking at, where in the Mediterranean would be a good fit for us, and settled on Collioure, which I'll talk about more later. Mm-hmm. And then I said, okay, logistically, how can we get from Paris to Collioure and piece together a nice trip? Because I should also say that we prefer to fly Iceland Air because the prices are like half as much as all the other airlines.
That's a good reason.
Yeah. And that limits us to flying into and out of only Paris or Geneva.
Right.
So
from
those being
Boston.
From Boston.
Right.
Yep. So those being the options, we say, okay, logistically, we need to get essentially from Paris to Collioure and back in 3 weeks. So what do we want to do? So from there, I said, well, there really are two regions that I'm really interested in seeing. Brittany is one, and Alsace is the other. Mm. So kind of, you can't do both and Collioure.
No.
Otherwise, you'd just be driving the whole time.
Yep.
So Brittany was my top choice. So we said, okay, Brittany, let's put that on the list. And then in between Brittany and Collioure is the Dordogne, which was our favorite spot last time. So let's go back there.
Excellent.
So that's kind of the thinking behind the trip. And one of the things that I really like, in addition to the history, is the idea that these regions, whether it's Catalonia or Brittany, have their own kind of cultural identity that's very strong. And I find that very interesting to go and see. So these are the things that interested me.
That's true. It's very surprising to people who visit France for the first time, who get out of Paris. If you stay in Paris, you're not going to see this. But if you get out of Paris, you will see that different regions have very strong regional identities. And certainly Brittany and Basque country have the strongest regional identities. And then you have places like Catalonia or Catalan country, which has a little more. Alsace has some as well. Where I am here, Toulouse, well, we have Occitanie. Yeah, we have a little bit, but it's not as prevalent as in other, as it is in Brittany and in Basque country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, so that's what we did. So we flew into Charles de Gaulle and had no issues and got on the TGV right away. So it's basically, we planned it so we land early in the morning, get on the TGV, take the TGV to Tours, which is in the Loire Valley.
Right?
No.
Oh, no, so from CDG you can take the TGV to Tours?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So you just have to, you have to transfer from terminal to terminal, which can be a little bit arduous, although this time it was fine. And then, you just get right on the train, and then an hour and a half later, you're in Tours. It's pretty amazing, actually. Yeah. And the price is good, too. I think it's like, 35 euros per person or something. So I think that's great. So to me, since we're starting in the Loire for 2 nights, doing that is a no-brainer over renting a car and driving jet lagged. Yeah. I think it's just more relaxing, and we can just chill out on the train, and it works nice. So we arrived in Tours, picked up the car, and drove to our bed and breakfast, which is right outside of Amboise. So this is a place that we had stayed in for 2 nights in 2015, and we were staying for another 2 nights this year. And it's a beautiful place. It's on a farm. The owners are amazing. And that when you talk to a lot of people, everyone wants to achieve this kind of level when they travel of kind of feeling like a local and feeling included in kind of just the everyday goings on of the people. Yeah. And I feel like from our experience, it's really hard to do that. But one of the best ways to do it is to go back to a place that you had been before.
Oh, that's a good idea.
This is the second time in 2 years we stayed with this family, and they welcomed us like we had just left the day before, and we hung out with their grandkids, and it's just really lovely, and you really feel welcomed. So
that's great.
That's a really nice place to be for the first 2 days as we burned off jet lag and saw a couple sites. That's
cool. You can burn off jet lag in 2 days?
Yeah, well, we did a pretty good job of it, I'd say. So the first day... Good. When we arrived around noon, and then we did a little bit of shopping, grocery shopping, and then went on a long walk along the Cher River, which is the river that Chenonceau is on.
Right.
And so we just walked, saw Chenonceau from the outside, took a lot of pictures, kind of just kept the body moving as best we could. And that was pretty effective, actually. We all got good night's sleep, and we all woke up at a reasonable hour the next day.
Yeah, because it's kind of brutal when you arrive in France and it's 8 a.m. and you really want to go to sleep and you're like, what do I do? So you need to find something to keep yourself occupied all day. And hopefully walking around is a, well, I've heard from everybody that that's the best way because you're in the sun and your body's going to get the hint that, it's daytime here. So
that's right.
Keep going. It's not good to sit in a hotel room because you don't get the sun and it's not the same.
You're going to fall asleep. If you can see the bed, you're going to be in the bed.
That's probably true.
Yeah. So I'd like to take a little time to talk about cheese just for a second.
My favorite subject.
Yeah. So I love cheese and I love French cheese. But I found that so the two best cheeses we had on the trip, and the best cheese that we had on the trip was on this first day. The first thing we bought, basically, in France was the best cheese we ended up having on the trip. And what is kind of amazing to me is that on both instances where we got these amazing cheeses, I just went to a fromagerie and just asked the person working there, what would you recommend from the region? Everywhere I went, I tried to eat things from eat and drink things from the region. So I was like, what's local and good? And both times they pointed out these local cheeses that I had never heard of. Even if I wrote down the name, I probably wouldn't have recognized it. It's not a common name. And in this case, in the Loire, it was a soft cow cheese that was just out of this world. Mm-hmm. So I think that's awesome that there's many well-known cheeses that are really, really good in France. But nobody knows better than the cheesemonger to set you up with something that's kind of can blow you away. Oh, yeah. And, even for me who lives in France, you get into a rut, so you get used to buying the same things at the grocery store. Well, this morning I went and I bought a new cheese that I had never tried before. It's very much like other cheeses, but it was a different one. And it was Flanchet or Blanchet, I can't remember. Anyway, it was it's cow cheese. No, it's a sheep cheese with cendré is what it's called. So it's got this grayish, greenish thing on top. It's got ash, so it's ashed. Anyway, it was lovely. So you gotta try stuff. You just have to try new stuff. Yeah, that's right. So that's kind of what I try to do. Try new stuff and try anything that's local.
Very good.
And get people's opinions, because then you get to talking to people too, and it's fun.
Yeah.
So on day 2, we went to Chambord, the big chateau.
Chateau, yep.
That we did not see last time, and it was cool. It was very big. The drive was very nice. I love driving around the Loire. Is the best. The roads are great. They're relatively straight, and you see all this cool stuff.
It's true. Loire is pretty.
Yep. So we spent the morning there and had a picnic lunch, and it's really impressive and really pretty. It's got that amazing staircase in the middle.
Yes, Chambord is really large. It's probably one of the largest Loire Valley castles.
Mm-hmm. And just like anything else in France, it's reasonably priced and easy to park at, and easy accessible, and it is very nice.
Oh, that's good.
So then from there, we went to kind of our first off the beaten path place. So we tried to kind of diversify our itinerary, where we're seeing big sites that everyone goes to, and medium sites, and some sites that kind of nobody goes to, or very few people go to get a feel for what those are like and what the experiences are different. And so on the way back to Amboise, we stopped at a mushroom cave. So this is a cave that offers tours to people every day. And surprisingly, there was, it was a full tour. It was maybe 12 of us on the tour. And the deal is, it's a cave that was created because they were extracting the limestone to build the chateau, or whatever they were using the limestone for over the course of the last 2,000 years. It's a quarry.
Yeah.
But within this cave, this company that grows mushrooms is renting or bought it, or I'm not sure, whatever, but they run their business down there, and they grow a number of different mushrooms that they sell to restaurants and markets and the like. So we got a tour of that process, and that was pretty cool. But in addition to that, I'm not sure why. Maybe it's to bring in more tourists. They have one area where they carved a little mini city out of the limestone. So they carved dogs and cats and doors and street lamps and trees. And it's bizarre, but really, really cool. And the tour guide was really nice. She does, for the kids, they say like, oh, can you find like the 3 dogs and 2 cats and a squirrel? And the kids run around. There were other kids on the tour too. So it was kind of a fun, engaging tour. We bought a bunch of mushrooms and they were very good.
Was this tour in English or in French then?
So the tour was in French, but as we walked from place to place, she would kind of walk with us and explain stuff in English. But so it was really nice. She was really nice.
Right. She only had 12 people, so she could do a little bit of both.
That's right. Yep.
Oh, excellent. That sounds like a nice full day.
Yeah, it was fun. So at night we went to a restaurant in Amboise and walked around that town a little bit. Didn't see any sights, just walked around. Mm-hmm. And then that was it. So the next day we took off for Brittany. So we rented a house in Dinan in Brittany, and we couldn't get access to the house until 4:00 in the afternoon, and we were leaving in the morning. So we tried to find something that we could do en route between Amboise and Dinan, which was about a 3.5-hour drive.
Right.
So we had done some research, and we're trying to find things that are kind of unique, that are kind of out of the way, not ordinarily done. So it was a Sunday. So we found a Breton traditional festival that was going on in a town kind of in between the two.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So this town is called Monterfil, which seemed like any typical French town.
Yeah, Monterfil. Yep. Sounds. Yep.
And so we just drove in and followed the signs and parked in a big soccer field and walked to this festival. So the festival was basically there was Breton music and Breton dancing and a kind of impromptu bar and a grill and a pig roast and this area where they were doing something with strawberry wine, but I have no idea what. And we were definitely the only tourists there, foreign tourists.
Yeah.
And there really wasn't much English. Actually, there was no English spoken. We were on our own.
Very good.
But it was really cool. So we got to see this side of things, and the Breton music is very bagpipe heavy, I guess, or similar. Yeah.
It'll give you a headache if you're not careful. I mean, it's really loud and.
So this is our first time in Brittany, and definitely this is a good introduction because there's definitely Breton pride.
Yeah.
And when you're there, as we learned, everything is Breton. They seem to be masters at branding because everything that there is, they can call Breton, and they've got the Breton flag over everything. And it's pretty cool. Even to the point where when we went to the bar to order drinks, they didn't have Coca-Cola or Pepsi or anything like that. They had Breton Cola.
And what did that sound like? That tastes like, I mean.
It tasted like Coca-Cola. So we ordered that, and that was just fun. And we got our commemorative cups that seemed to be all about raspberry wine. Again, I have no idea what that means, but...
Yeah, was it a rosé with like raspberry flavoring or something?
I have no idea.
Oh, you didn't try any?
It was weird. It seemed like for the raspberry wine booth and for the pig roast, you needed tickets. But when I inquired about them, they kind of told me, like, not in a rude way, but they kind of said, "Yeah, no, not for you."
Okay. So maybe I can explain. A lot of villages, especially if it's a small place, they will put together a special event a few times a year, and they sell tickets in advance to those things because the catering needs to know exactly how many people they're serving, and they don't take walk-ins pretty much. Yeah. So my village has stuff like that as well, and ideally they like to have a settled number of attendees a week before. So the day of, there's no way.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, this was all spoken to me in French, and I just nodded my head like I understood what they were talking about.
Yeah.
But that does make sense.
Yeah.
But we could buy food from the grill. So we bought
Yeah.
sausages wrapped in galettes, which are savory crepes.
Yeah.
And so we learned very quickly that in Brittany, everything is wrapped in a galette.
Yep.
No matter what it is, throw it in a galette. So
Did they dip galette in their coffee in the morning?
I wasn't really around it.
Nah, they don't.
They don't.
They don't.
But I thought that was cool. So I just get a sausage, throw in a galette, throw some mustard in, throw some pickles. There you go. There's lunch.
Yep.
So that was a pretty unique experience that we'll remember for a long time.
Yes.
So then we moved on to Dinan, where we rented a house near the port, which is the kind of the lower part near the Rance River.
Yep. So Dinan is Dinan.
Correct. So it's a medieval city. It's been around for a long time, or medieval town that's got half timbered houses and cobblestone streets and granite, stone buildings everywhere. It looks really old.
Yeah.
Dinan is really awesome and really nice. I highly recommend it for a home base because it's pretty. It's got everything that you need in a nice town. It's very, very Breton, where you can get all of your Breton products and all your desserts. They've got these desserts that I can't pronounce, but are basically like buttery cakes.
Yeah, that's Quigamon. Or something like that. Quigamon. I can't say it either because it's Breton and I don't know how to speak that, but it's something like that.
Yeah. I would like that, please. Works.
Yes. That looks nice and rich. I'd like some of that. That's great.
But no, it's really, of all the kind of French towns I've been to, this is one of my favorites. I thought it was really nice. And
so definitely a recommendation. Now, that was your first time at that particular house rental.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. And it was okay. It was good.
Oh, it was fantastic. It was amazing.
And you found it through Airbnb or
through VRBO?
VRBO. Okay.
Yep. It was just a fantastic place. It had everything you need. Plenty of space. Everything's great. Full laundry, parking, everything you need.
That's good. I'll ask you to send me the link to those properties so I can put them as a recommendation on the show notes.
Yeah, I will. And if we're just talking about home rentals, one of the trickiest things to do I found, because I've now done this in a number of different towns, is to find a good place that has lots of good recommendations, that has everything you need, that doesn't rent on a 7-day minimum. Those are very rare. And this place in Dinan had a 4-night minimum, and we wanted to only stay in 4 nights. So this place gets extra bonus points because I was very happy. So it was right on the Rance River, which, in addition to having Dinan right there, you also have this beautiful walking path along the river. And we walked that path a couple times and down to the town of Lehon, Lehon.
Okay.
And one of the things that we did while we were there is we found a public swimming pool. And the kids wanted to go do that. So on one of the nights, not the first night, but one of the nights, we went and did that. Again, we're trying to do off the beaten path things. So, and of course, this comes with just a hilarious story. So we show up.
Oh, good.
We pay, I think it was €12 for the whole family. And it's funny, as we're walking in, we see on the left there's a big vending machine, and the only thing they're selling the vending machine is bathing suits. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. We go to a pool, you usually have a bathing suit. So we walk in, we pay the €12, we go through the changing rooms, come out, jump in the pool.
I think I know where this is going.
And within a minute, the man in charge comes up to me and tells me in French something that I didn't understand. So I asked him if he spoke English, and he told me that my bathing suit was not appropriate for a French pool.
Was it transparent by any chance?
No, it was just an American style, short style swimsuit, trunks.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Swimming trunks not okay in public pools. Yeah.
Yep. So he says I can go buy one at the vending machine if I want, or not. So that was fine. I mean, swimming was not really my thing. I was perfectly happy with putting my regular clothes back on and hanging out and reading a book. But I thought it was just hilarious that I couldn't last 1 minute in a pool without getting the boot.
Yeah. Unfortunately, public swimming pools are almost like, I think they're unpleasant about it. They just enforce this must be a Speedo, must be tight around your skin, because otherwise they're afraid of pubic hair. Which is really stupid, because we have hair all over our heads and you don't make us wear bonnets or whatever you call those things. So I don't know. But, it's just stupid. And I hope we'll evolve out of that.
Well, I feel like, this is you've talked about this on other shows, you and Elise, that there's an attitude in France, it seems, that like if there's things are done a certain way, that's just the way they're done, right? And I feel like that leads to, especially as an American, leads to you think of like, well, you should just do it a different way. You should be more flexible, or you should do something different. But I also feel like that kind of stubbornness also is what kind of makes these regions and food and all these local specialties kind of what they are, because I feel like because they focus on these, maybe I'm overgeneralizing, but I feel like if you're always looking for the best cheese or the best wine or something, and you're pulling from all different countries and regions like we do in America, you don't have that type of regional speciality.
Yeah, so. It's a thing about French being stubborn that's good and bad. It helps us keep our traditions. It helps us stay French. But at the same time, it's really annoying because sometimes there's no reason for these rules. It's just silly, Yeah. But they're not going to change their minds just because you negotiate. I mean, this is not something at a public pool, it's not negotiable, Now, if you go to a private pool, or if you go to more like a spa kind of place that has pools, they're more lenient, but they kind of frown on it because most of their lifeguards got trained to be public pool lifeguards. So unfortunately, they have that attitude anyway. And obviously, at a beach, you can do what you want. So
sure, yeah. Well, anyway, I thought it was a funny story. I thought it was kind of hilarious. No offense taken.
Good.
But anyway, enough about that. And now on to the sites that we saw while we were there.
Yes.
So on the first full day, we went to Mont Saint-Michel, which is about 40 minutes away. And
nice.
Probably the biggest. Aside from the Eiffel Tower, the biggest, most popular site that we saw on this trip.
Right.
And I feel like sometimes when you go to these big sites, you have expectations. They're really high, and sometimes they're not met. But I have to say, of all the high, A-level tourist sites I've ever been in my life, this was one of my favorites. I thought this is not to be skipped. It was so beautiful, and the weather was perfect, and we were there at low tide. And we arrived at 4:00. So
PM.
Go ahead.
No, PM.
PM. Yep. So as we arrived, there was people leaving, but by the time we got in there, it wasn't that crowded at all.
Exactly. That's a very good trick. You want to leave. No, you want to be there when all the tour bus people are gone.
That's right.
And a place like Mont Saint-Michel will attract an awful lot of tour buses. And so they typically want to get their tourists back for dinner by 7:30 or something. So most of them leave around 4, 5, around that time. Yet, if like the Abbey, I don't remember how late it stays open, but in the summer, it's probably open till 7 or 8 p.m., right?
Later, I think, but yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. You can visit the Mont Saint-Michel between 4 and 8 p.m. and just have a grand time because most of the tour buses are gone.
Yeah, and it worked out perfectly. And I can totally imagine that if we were there and there was 10 times as many people and you couldn't move, you can't really enjoy the beauty of it because you're just kind of aggravated, right? Yes. So
it is aggravating. And places like Mont Saint-Michel, Carcassonne, there are many, many places like that are just a small geographical area with lots of tourists, and it just gets unbearable. So it's best to do your best. I usually recommend that people spend the night on the Mont Saint-Michel so that they have all night. I mean, if they want to go walking around at midnight, they can do that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That's pretty nice too. But at least get there after the tour buses. That's the least you can do.
Hmm. So if you go past, you go all the way up the front, like the front door, I'll call it, and then you go down. When you get to the back, you can just hang out on the mud flats back there, and there was nobody there. You can climb on the rocks, and it was truly some of the most beautiful scenery I've ever seen.
Yeah,
and nice and peaceful, and there's sheep, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and you can dig up clams depending on where you go, depending on if it's high tide or low tide or stuff like that. It's a really fun thing to do.
Yeah. So then we left there, and then on the way home, we stopped in Cancale.
Cancale, yes.
Yep, along the coast, and we bought a dozen oysters from one of the roadside restaurants, and ate them right there on the beach, and they were outstanding. Best I've ever had.
Excellent. Did you shuck them yourself?
Nope, they shuck them right there.
Oh, they do it for you. Excellent.
Yep. And for €5 a dozen, you can't beat it.
Oh, €5 a dozen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's nice. You're making me hungry.
Yeah, no, they were outstanding, and they just give you like a plastic bucket, and they shuck them, they put them in the bucket, throw a bunch of seaweed on top, and take your €5, and then you're on your way. It's great.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So then the next day, it rained a lot. The forecast said it was going to rain a little, but it rained a lot, and we were going to take a long drive to the granite coast, the rose granite coast. But on the way it was pouring, and I said, let's not do that, because I want to drive 3 hours in the pouring rain. Yeah. So we detoured to Fort La Latte. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Fort La Latte. Yep.
Which is this castle right on the cliff's edge on the ocean.
Yep.
And it's really beautiful. I guess they've filmed a lot of movies there because it's very, Viking, barbarian-esque, very, very picturesque.
Did they do any Games of Thrones there? Because if they do that, then it'll be filled with tourists forever after.
Yeah, no, I think that's mostly Croatia, right?
Oh, okay, all right.
But it definitely had that feel, though.
Yeah.
The pictures are beautiful. The pictures we took, even though it was pouring out, were beautiful, and it was just a really cool place, and we like that.
I put that on my list. I've never been to Fort La Latte, so
yeah, I think it's definitely worth it. And so that was mostly a rain out day, because that's all we really were able to see. Although in our free time, when we got back, we did some food shopping and caught up on laundry and postcards and stuff. So yeah, that's fine. Nice. Our expectations were set that we were going to get some rain in Brittany, and we did. So that's what it is.
Yeah, no matter what there's some people who go and it never rains. Obviously, it can happen, but that's not most mortals. Most of us get rained on a lot in Brittany.
So the next day we went to Saint-Malo, which numerous people I think on your show have talked about, and it's lovely.
Yeah, we did a whole episode on it. I can't remember which number.
Yeah, that's right. On the book, right? All the Light You Cannot See.
Yes.
Yep. Yes. Which I've read, and it's a great book. Yeah. So that was cool. I liked it a lot, but don't really have much to add from other people who've been on the show. But what is new, I think, is that after we did that, we went to this thing called the Sculptured Rocks, and it's only about 10 minutes away from Saint-Malo, and it's kind of a side of a hill, a granite hill that a monk spent most of his life carving into. So he carved people, knights, dragons, tombs, all these kinds of things. It's just completely wild. It's amazing. And there's probably, I don't know, like 80 different things he carved into this. And you just kind of climb on the rocks and take beautiful pictures. You're right there on the ocean. It was quite windy and cold that day. But I thought that was really amazing.
That's nice. That's nice. How did you find that?
How did I find that? I think that was in the Rick Steves guide. He talks about the coastal drive between Saint-Malo and Mont Saint-Michel, and he picks off some things that you can do, including Cancale and the Sculptured Rock. So
cool.
We figured that out.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that was really neat. And then we did another hike as well along that same, I think it's called the Emerald Coast. Not a hike, but, along the coast and picking up shells and walks and things.
Yeah.
So that was nice. So that was basically it for we'll call northern Brittany. 4 nights there. And in our free time, we spent a lot of time in Dinan, seeing the town itself, which I said is great.
Which is beautiful, yeah.
Yeah. So then for the next 2 nights, we spent those in bed and breakfast on the Gulf of Morbihan.
Aha.
And seeing old Celtic sites.
Ah.
So we drove south, saw Carnac, saw the Carnac stones. They say there's something like, 1,500 standing stones at Carnac. And there's these giant stones that were put there 10,000 BC.
Yeah.
So pretty amazing history with that. Again, it was raining a bit. And even though I prepared the kids, when it comes down to it for kids, it's really standing in the rain looking at rocks.
Yes. For adults too, I have to say. I mean, yeah. I'm not that patient with looking at rocks, Yeah. No, not really.
So, yeah, I thought it was pretty cool, but we didn't stay too long.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah. And then the next day we went to the burial tombs. So there were 2. There's one called Lac Maria-Cour, I think it's pronounced.
Lac Maria-Cour.
Okay. And Gavrigny.
Gavrigny, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So these are graves, you said?
There are these large circular tombs that are, well, they're tombs, but they're designed by the engineers of the day to have the light shine directly into them and hit the back wall only on December 21st at a certain time.
Wow.
So it's all in the kind of this whole Stonehenge, Celtic, Druid, mystical thing.
Yeah.
Where there's a reason for all of this, but nobody knows because it's prehistory. So we have to guess.
Yeah. Huh. That's interesting. So the light doesn't penetrate back to the back of the rock until a specific day.
Correct. Yep. And there are some of these in England and Ireland as well. And I just find them completely fascinating because clearly the engineers of the day really knew what was going on.
Yeah.
To do this. And again, this is 10,000 BC. That's 7,000 years before the pyramids were constructed.
Yeah. I mean, it is surprising. We just had the solar eclipse, the total eclipse in the US. And honestly, when it started, I was thinking, well, nothing's happening here. Like, nothing's going... Like, I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't... Like, you don't see it coming. It just happens. I wonder how these people knew all this stuff was going to happen. Because they knew it was going to happen.
Absolutely.
Not everybody, but, I mean, learned people knew this stuff. And I'm like... Today, if we didn't have the news telling us, hey, there's going to be a solar eclipse on this day in this place, you would never know. Like,
that's right. Yeah. And again, just getting back to the time span of history that you can see while you're in France. I mean, this is a totally unique thing that is pretty much in France and England that you can see that's from 10,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And I thought it was definitely worthwhile taking 2 days out of our trip to see this. I thought it was really cool.
Very good.
That night, as I said, we were staying right on the Gulf of Morbihan, which Elise talked about extensively in one episode, which was very helpful.
One episode, yep.
We just happened to see this road race go by, and which I think we read about it. It's a race all the way around, a foot race all the way around the Gulf, which is like 80 miles. Or 80 kilometers. One of the two.
That's a long race.
Yeah. So
that's like twice a marathon.
Yep.
Because a marathon is like 42 kilometers, I think.
Yeah, that sounds
so.
Right.
It's about twice the length of a marathon. That's a big run.
Mm-hmm. So while we were there, since we didn't have a house, we went out for dinner both nights, and both nights went to creperies, which were like super. And one thing that's impressive about these places, these small restaurants, is they appear to be mostly family run, and everyone's working really hard, and it really has that kind of personal touch to it. And I thought they were really nice places.
Yeah, most restaurants and most bakeries, butcher shops, all of these things in France are family run.
Mm-hmm.
It's we have a few chains, but very few.
Yeah.
So.
And it seems like the way it goes is that you order a dinner crepe, and then you order dessert crepe. And dinner crepe's around 10, 11 euros, and the dessert crepe's around 6 euros, and that's your meal.
Yeah.
And you can order cider, which, by the way, the cider in Brittany is the best I've ever had. The hard cider.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really good.
And overall, it was great. I think my favorite thing I had was the seafood galette, the dinner crepe. It was very, very good.
So they just put seafood in a galette and put cheese in it and folded it over?
No, it was like mussels and scallops in like a cream sauce.
Ah, okay.
And then in a galette.
Nice.
So, yeah, it was very good.
One
thing good. I had that was kind of gross, but interesting was the crêpe Normandie.
Oh.
Which I didn't really know what it was, but I knew it was going to be lit on fire. So I said, okay, let's go with that. So it's dessert crepe with what has to be either a shot or a shot and a half or 2 shots of Calvados poured on top and lit on fire.
Ah, yes. Calvados, yes. Do you want to explain what that is?
It's like an apple brandy made in Normandy and Brittany. Is that right?
Yeah, but brandy it's the very dry type of brandy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a sweet. It's a flavorful, but not sweet at all, and almost like a vodka, really.
Yeah. Well, let's just say the alcohol did not really burn off.
Yeah.
So on a normal day, I would not, pour a shot of whiskey on my pancake. So
really?
No. Huh. So I'm still not inclined to really enjoy that very much. So.
Oh boy.
But the kids were impressed by the flaming.
Sure.
But so if you have to drive, don't get the crêpe Normandie.
Yeah, la crêpe de Normande, no. And Calvados in general, it's a super strong alcohol I don't like these strong liquors anyway, so I'm a wine person.
Mm-hmm. So that's Brittany.
Yeah. Well, that's fun.
Yeah, I really liked it. I really liked the feel of it. As I said, it's got this really strong independent vibe.
So you really wanted to go to Brittany. Are you happy you went to Brittany? Was it satisfying?
Absolutely. Yep. Exceeded my expectations.
Oh, very good. Very good.
So
okay. You know what? I'm looking at the time we spent on this. We got probably 40 minutes on just this part. So why don't we make it 2 episodes? Telling us about Brittany, and on the next episode, we'll talk about the rest of your trip, which I'm sure was equally fun.
Thanks, Annie.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Thank you very much, patrons who support the show month after month. I want you to know how much I appreciate your continued support. To support the show on Patreon, go to patreon.com/join us, Patreon. Join us, no spaces or dashes. There are other ways you can support the show. To see them neatly listed, go to joinusinfrance.com/support, where I give you several possibilities. For my personal update this week, I am off to Paris in a few days to lead a tour between October 1st and October 7th. It looks like we're going to have lovely weather, most days anyways, and I'm really excited to take people again to some of my favorite places on earth. As I did last time, I'll post lots of pictures to the Join Us in France closed group on Facebook, and I'll try to do more sound recordings as well. I'm not sure if I'll manage to edit an episode to release it next Wednesday because I'll be in the middle of the tour. I'm going to try. Let's see. But it's going to be a crazy week if I have to do 2 episodes. Anyway, this October tour didn't sell as well as we'd hope, and that's a mystery why, because the other one sold super well. I don't know. But because of that, it'll just be me leading it. I gave the group a choice of touring with just me or getting their money back. And they chose to tour just with me, which is great, but it's scary at the same time because I don't have because I don't have as much experience as Elise does. But on the other hand, I might be the most over-prepared tour guide ever, if that's possible. So I'll try to listen to them. If I bore them, I swear I'll pay attention to their facial expressions. I'll ask them to report on that anyway. I hope we'll have many more people on the tour in May 2018 so that Elise can be back, because she's really awesome at what she does. And it's a shame that that she won't be able to be there on this one. For the extra this week, I have 8 tips for driving in France. Driving comes up a lot on the show, but I wanted to boil it down to a few 8 essentials that you need to not forget. And to get that, you need to sign up for the extras on joinusinfrance.com. And speaking of that, joinusinfrance.com is now HTTPS compliant. So that's really good. It means that your data is secure and that nobody can sneak in there and grab your email addresses, which I don't think was ever a problem before, but Google is really insisting that everything needs to be HTTPS. So that's what we did. It's done for that site. And thank you so much for my dear husband for doing that. He understands this stuff. Me, not so much. So it's really good to have his assistance with things like that. The best way to connect with me is to email me, Annie@joinusinfrance.com, or search for the Join Us in France closed group on Facebook. If you have feedback on what you heard on an episode, leave me a voicemail, 1-801-806-1015. This is the French tip of the week. This week's French tip of the week is Je suis heureuse d'aller à Paris la semaine prochaine. J'espère qu'il y fera beau. Je suis heureuse d'aller à Paris la semaine prochaine. J'espère qu'il y fera beau. So I'm happy to be going to Paris next week. I hope we'll have good weather. Je suis heureuse d'aller à Paris la semaine prochaine. J'espère qu'il y fera beau. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday. Maybe, I hope. We'll see. Au revoir. The Join Us in France Travel Podcast is written and produced by Annie Sargent and copyright 2017 by Addicted to France. It is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.